welcome to the Cultivating. What the fuck is this podcast? Oh, Cultivate Your Life. I was like, what the fuck is the name of this podcast? Hey everyone, welcome to the Cultivate Your Life podcast, where we're nourishing our minds through cultivating conversation. Welcome to episode number 4. But before we go ahead and get started, I wanted to remind you, if you haven't already, go ahead and click the button so like, subscribe, and share so you do not miss an episode. New episodes are uploaded every Saturday. All right, let's just go ahead and jump in it. I have a special guest with me tonight. This is Monique. Hey, Monique.
Hi, Lisa.
Why are you saying like that?
Hi.
I am good. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Where are you joining us from?
Crandall, Texas.
Crandall, Texas. For those who don't know, it's somewhere in Texas.
It's in the boonies.
Because I don't even know how to describe it, if it's like north or south of Dallas, east of Dallas, west of Dallas.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Okay. All right. How have your week been so far? It's only Tuesday.
Well, today was my first day back to work. So this was a Monday for me.
All right. So we want to go ahead. You ready to jump right into this topic?
Sure.
Okay. So this topic is a little different. I'm going to go ahead and insert the clip of the statement we are referencing to, because it was a comment that was made during our previous episode. I just had this conversation with somebody on my way home from the nail salon, and she Trini, and she was like, she would never, she can't be with Trini man.
Oh,
She doesn't even want to be with Caribbean men.
Oh, wow.
She's okay date, like she likes American guys, and it's like, she doesn't date Caribbean men because of how they are, like and let me go ahead and say a disclaimer. I said for all the Caribbean men that's listening to this, okay, we don't mean no harm, but I'm not claiming up the comment because I didn't make the comment. I was just reiterating the comment. So let me go ahead and just jump right in it. So on our last pod, the comment came up where you stated that you're from Trinidad and you prefer not to date Caribbean men. You especially don't want to date Trinidad guys from Trinidad, which I don't know why, because I love them. The way they talk is like they're singing to you, and I think they're so funny. Like if they're funny and they have that Trini accent, it's just like, whoop, perfect combination. But anyways, I digress. So you stated that you wouldn't date Caribbean men. And we kind of wanted to, I kind of thought it was because of the multiple women and the multiple children. But I want you to go ahead and clear up what exactly do you mean by that? And if you're comfortable, I want to know, how did you get to that place where you don't want to, you would rather, I don't want to say you don't want to, you would rather not date a guy from the Caribbean. You can start wherever you want, wherever you're more than comfortable with. You can feel comfortable, disclose what you want.
Right.
It's whatever you're comfortable with, and yeah, we're gonna go right into it. So
okay. Well, I've dipped on both sides. So I was.
What do you mean you dipped? Wait, first of all, what do you mean dipped on both sides? It kind of sounded like you would say you was a lesbian.
Men. No.
Oh, so when you say, because let me tell you, when you say you dipped on both sides, I was like, hold up, I did not know.
Listen, it sounded different in my head. Okay.
Oh, okay.
It sounded different in my head, but when I said it, I realized, okay, no.
Okay. I was about to say, I was like, you never told me that you dip and dabble in the female cesspool.
No, I don't think that way.
Okay.
No, but I've been married to an American, and I have been married to a Trinidadian. So I've twice married, twice divorced. I think the statement is because when I was younger, I believe, my belief and seeing my mother and my stepfather and my stepmother and my father, I always said, I don't want to get married to a Trini man, because they have this mentality that they're looking for their mother, or they always want you to be submissive. it's a submission thing. Like, you say anything, they say anything, and that's the way it's supposed to be. So in my head, I've never wanted that, right? I never wanted to be in the kitchen cooking. I've watched my mother get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and cook three. She cooked before she go to work. She get home, she cook, dinner for my stepfather, and before he go to bed, she had to make tea. You know, I'm not doing that.
Wow.
You,
Okay.
you know what I'm saying? That's a good
Right.
woman, right? That's what
Right.
men consider a good woman. They get three square meals, whether they want it or not. They got it. Um, and I've been married to an American man, so it's not the matter of all men cheat. All of them cheat. All of them do the same thing. Man is man, right? But I just didn't want that. But when I do venture out and I date American men, I do miss or long for that Trini man because the culture is different. Even though opposites attract, I do get attracted to American men, but I do miss my Trini culture because it's foreign to them. They can't dance. The music is different. So me being a woman that like to dance, if they're American, they can't dance. Some of them ain't have no rhythm. You still have to teach them, the song playing. You have to tell them what the song's saying, this kind of way.
Right.
So I came to that, even though I'm contented with that, I still don't want to. Maybe I haven't run into the right guy. Maybe it's trauma, past traumas. Um, but my experience with Matrini husband didn't go the way that I thought it was gonna go when I did open up to being saying, okay, well, let me give somebody who understand the culture or somebody who come from the same background. Let me open that door for that. It didn't go
Okay.
that way because he just wasn't ready. You know what I mean? Even though they talk honesty, they talk they are men because they always have to remind you that they are the man in the relationship. They have to put that down. It still didn't He still didn't show me that. He didn't show me the provider side. He didn't show me the man who is willing to come in and share certain things with his partner. He was still closed off and still wanted to keep secrets. And to me, that's not what a relationship should be. You know what I mean? So even though opposites do attract, it come with other qualities because you single, I'm single. We're single women, right? And we do have
Girl,
preferences.
don't put my business out like that. Somebody listening to this could think I'm a whole married woman. I just joking.
But we have preferences, right? And there's
Right.
certain things we do prefer. But I do believe that men tend to say, like for instance, you were talking about on the other episode, the previous episode, about the conversation with the gentleman and whatever, whatever. Um,
Oh, are you talking about the conversation with a Jamaican?
Correct. You know, the submission part. I think they have it all confused about what being submissive is.
Okay. All right. So before we like dig in a little bit, because I have some questions.
Sure.
Was your first husband an American or a Trini?
An American.
Why was the American your first husband and not no coming from not somebody with the same culture as you? Why did you initially just gravitate to switching to an well, not even switching, but why was that your first pick? Because usually you tend to see people try to pick their own first
Yeah.
before they kind of venture out. But you decided to venture out first before, and why did you do that? What
Well,
do you think was that?
I was engaged to someone that I went to school with when I came to the US. I was
Okay,
engaged to him and he was Trini, but he was born American. But that didn't work out. Um
okay,
we were in two different states. It just didn't work the way we expected it to work. So that kind of pushed me away to gravitate to an American. It was something different. He had certain features that reminded me of my father. You know what I mean?
Interesting. But
Um,
that's interesting you say that because previously you have mentioned like maybe you don't really date the Trini guys because of like you saw what your father and your stepdad and your and things did, but then you still gravitate initially to a guy that reminded you of your dad.
you
So
ever hear the things you resent the most is sometimes what you become?
no.
Yeah. Things that you run from is what you gravitate to.
So you think you gravitate to that because he like you was what you think you were running from?
I know the type of man my father was or
Okay.
is because he still is, right?
Mhm.
But I love my father regardless. I love him. I love you can't say nothing wrong about him. I'm
Right.
ready to defend, you know? So the
Mhm.
love is there, but I know who he is. It's just like I would look somebody and say, "Oh, he looked like my father." And I'm automatically smitten because I see those features, but I recognize that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So it's a trauma, and when you recognize and you are able to talk about it, you grow from it. Hence the reason why I'm single and I'm waiting and I'm not in a rush to see that, because when I see somebody and I say, "Oh, that remind me of my father," now I'm at the point where I'm like, been there, done that. That ain't nothing but some trouble, you
Okay.
know. So yeah.
So how was your first husband? And you don't if you're not comfortable with divulging this, it's fine. Um, how was your first marriage to an American different from your second marriage to a Trini guy?
Um, my first marriage with my American husband, that was different because he was smitten by me. He was, she's Trini, and that's all he knew. It was Trini. The food was different for him. You know,
Hmm.
um, but he loved me. It was all about me. I even today, if I ask him for anything, he never says no. I've never gotten a no from him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, I think that was it. He catered to me in the beginning. You know, I was always at home. I cleaned, I cooked. We Caribbean girls, we learned how to do that from the time we could start doing stuff for ourselves. We learned how to do that. So that's who I was. Um, and he was in the streets. That's what he did. He was street hood. I give me a button down guy, and I'm like, what the hell is this? But if you
Oh,
give
so
me
he was
that
a
little
hood guy.
street, I'm all about that. I like that because opposite of who I am.
Okay.
You know,
So what? So then you just said that you were at home when you were cooking and you were cleaning. Was it the same thing that your mom did that you just said in the beginning
not
that
not
your
not
mom
the
was
three
cooking
meals,
3 meals?
not the 3 meals. You
Oh,
get
you were
one
cooking
meal,
two?
baby. One, oh,
Oh.
one. That's it. I ain't in no ki- I'm definitely in no kitchen all day long. And I clean and I cook and I go lay myself down or watch TV or find something else to do. I'm not in no kitchen all day long. And I'll cook for a couple of days. I'm not in the kitchen every day either.
Okay.
I'm not you're gonna have to learn to eat leftovers.
Okay. So that ended because he switched up and he wasn't catering to you or taking care of you in the way that he was
He
initially
wasn't
from the.
there. He
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 wasn't there.
he wasn't there. And infidelity and doing what he the men do. um
Hmm.
and that was it. I remember even when he started cheating and whatever, running the streets and cheating, my ex-mother-in-law, god rest her soul, she said to me, "Why you just sit up there and let these women take your man?" I said to her, yes, She would ask me that. She said, "You just sit up here like it's nothing, and they just take your man and go." And I said to her, "If he was mine, I wouldn't have to. He wouldn't leave. He didn't belong to me in the first place, and I'm not gonna keep someone that doesn't want to be kept. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Yeah, I
So
understand that. Okay, so that marriage ended,
correct
and so let's go. And now
to
you're
my
with this Trini guy, but you're in the States. So tell us how that met, because you were in the States. Where was Did you meet your Trini husband here in the States, or did you meet him like back home?
darling.
Just
That
give
was
us.
a boy in school that was just chasing around my little tail, and I didn't like him.
Okay, so you knew him from school days.
School
Okay.
days, did not like him,
Okay.
and he would follow me around all the time. And when I went after my divorce, I stayed single for probably about 7, 8 years. I was by myself because I was married for 10 years. I got married at 19, 1920. I just turned 20, I believe. And I stayed by myself, and then my sister, he ran into my sister and a cousin-in-law of mine, and they gave him my number, and he called, and I was so mean to him. I said, "Who gave you
Wait,
my
after
number?"
you haven't seen him in years, he calls you and you was mean to him?
What? I said, "Who's this?" I was so mean. I was, I was like, I've always been with him, always been like that with him. And I said, "I'll call you back." That's what I tell him. "I'll call you back. I drive in. I'll call you back." And when I got off the phone, my cousin-in-law was sitting there with me, and I said to her, "Who gave he my number?" She said, "Girl, if I see Dover." I said, "Oh, Gede." I said, "I don't like he." I said, "He used to smell like spit." You know? She said, "Oh my God, why you like that?" I said, "Oh, I don't like him. Why will I give him a number? He'll just bug me." That's what I said. He's a bugaboo. He'll bug me. And I got home and he called me back. And he was talking and I just, talking crazy. And he said, my cousin-in-law said, "I've never seen you acting like that. Why you acting like that? I've never seen you act like that." And he said, "She's always been like that with me, but I still love her." That's what he said. And
Wow.
I didn't, it didn't hit me then. It hit me after the conversation that that's not who I am. And he still didn't let that stop him from pursuing or still having that soft spot for me. So I kind
Hmm.
of encouraged the talk and we continued to talk back and forth. And then eventually the guards were lower, the walls that I had up came down and we ended up getting married. Um, we still talk today. It's still, he's still come around and he still talk and I don't know, but I don't know. I
Why
just
did that marriage not work?
He went dark because I was here and he was there, and we when you have the same group of friends, and I think because he wasn't a talker, he was more of a introvert. He's very shy,
Hmm.
and I would talk. I'm the person I want to communicate. I would ask a lot of questions, and he would shut down, completely shut down. And eventually, I just stopped calling, or it would be like I'll call, and it would be like I'm bothering him in a sense. So
Hmm.
I just kind of pulled away from that, and he went dark. And then I sent him a message. Something happened between him and somebody, and the talk come back to me. I got a call here in the
Hmm.
US because he was back home, and I wrote him and I told him I want a divorce. I was done, and that was it. We were only married for what, 5 years, um, and after the divorce, we were granted the divorce. We did the divorce during COVID, and he called me and he said to me, after the divorce was finalized, he said, "I know I wasn't my best, and he apologized. And I said to him, "I don't want to be friends with you." At first I thought we were friends, right? And when you're friends with somebody, I believe you can talk about anything, no matter if you my friend and it may hurt my feelings. My feelings I could get over. You get over things. But when you waste my time, I think that hurts more because that's something I can't get back. And I felt like I've wasted time because I have more time in front of me than behind me. And more time behind me than I have in front of me. So I didn't want his friendship. So I just kind of cut him off. And then when he migrated to the US, which was, maybe in 2022, 23, he started texting and reaching out via Instagram, every now and again. And then finally I just gave him my number and we talk, but I don't know if that's what I want. I don't know.
Understandable. So, how was he different? Because he wasn't, because he went dark, is the only reason why he was different from your American husband? Or was it, so what I'm trying to get at is, I know they're culturally different, right?
Correct. Correct.
How, what was, and I don't want to say the difference because you said the story. What, were there any similarities, is what I'm saying.
Totally different. Two totally different men. Um, my ex-husband was my first American husband. He was more thug life, Beaumont country, right? He showed me different things. Um, with my second husband, Trinidad, he knew everything I knew. We had the same friends. It was the same thing. But he just don't talk. My ex-husband talk. We talk about everything. That's why we can be friends today and not argue. Sometimes I say something to you, say, "All right, crackhead," things like that. Or he will call me to talk about, his present relationship, his marriage now, where his wife accept me as his sister. So that's how close my ex-husband and I, my American husband and I are. Because we were friends. Even though he
But you
hurt,
and your Trini husband was friends too.
but he did it wrong. He did it wrong. He didn't talk about things. He just kept everything inside. He didn't communicate well. He wasn't a communicator. Walter is a communicator.
Oh, you like to call names. Okay.
Yeah, I call names.
Oh, okay. All
we
right,
don't
thug life.
we
I
don't
don't call
we
names.
don't fuck around in the same circles. It's okay.
I was like, oh, you like to call names. Oh, okay. I was like, oh,
Put him on blast. Put him
okay.
on blast.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
All right. So you're still sticking to the preference that you would rather date an American guy over a Caribbean guy.
I would. I would. If I run into the right Caribbean guy, sure. I'm open.
But
Uh,
who you gravitate to is who
what
it would be first, an
first American?
American
If
guy.
if I had to choose, it would be
So
American.
if he was on that show, what they call it, Pop the Balloon, and they
God.
had, let's say they had a Jamaican, a
Uh-huh.
Grenadian, a Trini guy, and a guy from Texas, and a guy from New York. Who balloons you popping first? Now the first three are Caribbean, off the back, off the rip.
Of the bat. No, it wouldn't be a Jamaican. I could tell you that because I ain't want to get. I go get thump upside my head. I know. I know the legs. I know that.
Please, this is a disclaimer. So I tell the Jamaicans listening, we don't believe y'all beat all y'all women. We don't. Let's just, we got don't want nobody come and say, oh, Lisa, you let us woman come and say how Jamaican don't beat woman. I am not saying that. I'm putting the disclaimer out. I do not know anything about that. I don't want no parts of
Listen,
that.
Lisa, I'm not dating no Jamaican. I'm not dating. no Nigerians.
I
No
ain't saying nothing. I'm putting a disclaimer out. Lisa did not say anything. I am just here asking my questions. I have not even
listen,
given my
it's a
opinion.
stereotype. I know I will get thump upside my head because I all I have is my mouth and I just talk good mess, right? I talk a lot of mess.
Yeah, I know you do that for sure.
So, I getting licks. Any
Oh
which
boy.
way from American men, I get licks too because I just talk mess. This right
Oh
here.
Jesus.
But no, in all seriousness, I think personality wise,
Hmm.
the conversation will get me. If I ask a
But
question,
if you unpop the balloon like I
well,
said
I've
on the
never
show,
seen Pop the Balloon.
you never seen the pop the balloon? Okay.
Mm-mm. Remember, I
All right.
don't follow
Okay.
social media like that, so I wouldn't.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's say we put you somewhere, right? And you have these five guys: the
Mhm.
Jamaican, the Grenadian.
The
What
New
was the
York
other?
and the Texan.
But there was one more Caribbean guy. Well, let's just put a Nigerian there instead.
Okay.
The guy from Texas, the guy from New York, right?
Yeah.
Five guys.
Mhm.
And you start the conversation and you kind of eliminate them. And the first thing you ask them is, like, where are you guys from? And they say, one say Jamaica, one say Grenadian, the other say Nigeria, one say Texas, one say New York. Are you gonna pop their balloon, those three balloons because they first said? I know you popping a Jamaican one first,
Mhm.
so he getting pop. What about the Nigerian and the Grenadian?
The Nigerian I will pop here on too.
Also, the Grenadian stand a
I
chance.
think the Grenadian could stand a chance.
Okay,
My worry may be the long distance.
but I don't say they live long distance. I said they could live here
Okay.
and still be
Yeah.
from Grenada.
Yeah, that's fine.
They could live here and still be from Jamaica or Nigeria. They live here. They're in the
They live
same,
here.
but
Well,
they
yeah.
live here.
I'll keep the Grenadian.
You'll
I
keep the
don't
Grenadian. But you that don't change the Nigerian and Jamaican faith.
want.
Have you dated a Jamaican or a Nigerian, or have you been involved with one before? What's your turn off with them?
Aggressive.
I ain't asking too much questions, because you're gonna get me in trouble. Anyways, I get myself in trouble. I'm just asking the questions. So,
Aggressiveness.
from both?
Aggressive. Talk to me nice.
Oh gosh.
Lisa, talk to me nice. I don't want the aggressive thing. You don't want to know. I don't know if you insulted me. I don't know.
Oh my goodness.
I never. Next day they call me dirty foot girl. I
First of all, I don't think a Nigerian will ever call you a dirty foot or a Jamaican. Now, if you are a VI person, they might call you a dirty foot. But I don't even know. I think I the only one that just said, "Oh, I love to call people they dirty foot." Oh
talk
my
to me
goodness.
nice, okay? I wanted to talk to me nice.
Okay, so wow. Okay, so sorry for all the Jamaicans and Nigerians out there. You don't stand. They will stand a chance.
Talk
Does
to
not
me
matter.
nice.
So is it just Nigerians or African as a whole, or just like those Nigerians specifically? What? Just Africans.
A pass.
Really? You've never met a nice like African guy?
I met a king. I have met a king, and on a dating app. And that's where the weirdos come out.
Oh boy. You sure he was a king or he wasn't a scammer?
I don't know what he was, but by the first conversation, I was done. I did go out with a nice Nigerian guy once. Um, too too much too fast. Too much too fast. If you're dating, you're dating. I don't want to move in your house. I don't want you to tell me when and where I need to go. I don't need you to keep tabs on me. I don't want you to have the location on my phone. That's too much too fast for me.
Right, right.
You
I agree. Sometimes I do agree. Sometimes, and it's not just excuse me, with the African, well, the Nigerians or the Africans. I think sometimes people just come in too hot and heavy. Like
Yeah,
we did touch about it a little bit on the previous episode. Yeah, the people just come in, and I don't know. I mean, I think like we had on the pod is like, she said, people sometimes they be looking at you, but it depends because if you meet them on a dating app, they can't be looking at you. So why would you come in so hot and heavy,
hot and
like
heavy.
from under rip? You know what I mean? So that's kind of like a turned off. So
Yeah, and
I
and
can understand that.
I always say that I don't want you to, ain't nothing wrong with me. I always say I love myself, so I don't need nobody to tell me I'm beautiful. Words of affirmation is always good, but I don't want you to talk up under my dress the first time you talk to me. I
What
don't
do you mean
want
talk up
to
under your dress? Explain that. Explain that
the
saying. I
sex
never heard that.
talk. I believe the sex talk comes right. The how do you call it, intimacy comes right, but let me
Hmm.
fall in love with your mind first. Let me fall in love with the conversation first. From the time you start to talk about the address, you want to know you know intimate details about me, and I only been talking to you for a couple of days. That's too much for me. It's just a turn off, because remember, I don't know you. I'm not that forward. I'll say that. I'm not that forward. I want to get to know you as a person before that intimacy, that part of it. And it's gonna happen if you really care about somebody or you like somebody. It's gonna happen.
Right.
We grown, right? I'm not
Right.
saying I'm goody two shoes, or it's gonna be that, but I'm just saying let it get there. Don't rush it. That's a turn off for me.
Right.
Major turn
And
off.
and have you experienced the same hot and heavy with Caribbean guys?
I have. I have. And I think that
Cause Caribbean man, they like
yeah,
sex.
they like sex. And some and a lot of things I used to think is because I'm a plus size girl, that they think you have low self esteem, so you're easy head. You know what I'm saying? I have
Hmm.
ran into that. And I think a lot of that is what turns me off. Men see that you're plus size, they don't think you have self esteem. I have a lot of self esteem. You know what I'm saying? Nobody can tell me
Hmm.
nothing, and I don't put, not because they make it in my size mean I wear it. I'm very conscious about the places that are a plus. Okay, and some men are attracted to that,
Right.
and I get it. I understand. I'm a beautiful woman, and a sexy too bad. I have a trailer back there that I lug in a road that I wish I could cut off half the time, because I think that's what people see first when I bend the corner.
Ah.
Truth be told. Um, and a woman always wants to know she's beautiful and sexy. Like I say, there are words of affirmation that you can give, but there is such a thing that can make you come off real creepy and aggressive.
Okay.
You
I
know,
understand that. I don't want to come too. I don't want to go too far, straight too far off the topic. But I want to pull back a little bit and talk about when you said your Trini, your second husband,
hmm
um, he wasn't a communicator. Do you feel that that is an issue with? Now let's just focus on Caribbean men. Do you think that's an issue that you've encountered a lot amongst guys from the Caribbean?
I do, I do. That they don't talk about. They lash out in other ways. They don't communicate well. It's not some of their strong suit, and I understand. If nobody showed you, you just don't know. If you don't know, you just don't know. You know what
Right.
I mean? Um, but you have to talk through things and use your words. I don't believe in being in a relationship with somebody and they don't talk to you. I don't believe in going to bed angry. I don't believe in, if something is bothering you, I'm not a mind reader.
Hmm.
Because the intent is never to offend. I always say that it's never to offend. And if I, as your woman, offend you, then I need to know I offend you and in what way I offend you so that I don't make the same mistake, you know. But
Right,
when you
right.
get aggressive and you want to chastise me, it's a difference, you know. That doesn't sit well with me.
Okay. So did you try to like talk to him about that and show him like this is how like the right ways to communicate, being that you guys are in a relationship and you don't have that physical intimacy because you're here in the US, he's back home in Trinidad, and trying to find other ways to make your marriage at the time
Work.
kind of work because you're not in each other's face or you're not in around each other or doing stuff together, things like that. Did you have that did you try to like express that
Communicate.
to him? And right, did
I
you try
did.
that?
I did because, like I said, when you grew up in a household with only a mother or with only a father, you'll miss certain things, right? I grew up in a household where I saw my aunt and my uncle because I grew up with my aunt and my uncle. So I saw what that marriage was like, you know. And as a little girl, I always wanted to be married. You and I have had this conversation when you want to get married again. You know,
You know,
yes,
I always ask
I
you that.
do.
I'll be
Yes,
like, you want to get married again?
again. Yes, you know, I've always loved marriage. You know, the white picket fence. I love the sanctuary of marriage. I love it. I believe that I was born to be a wife. I'm not meant to be a girlfriend because I don't know how to be a girlfriend. I when I say that, if that makes sense to anybody, I don't know how to be a
I mean,
girlfriend.
it makes sense because you got married in your first marriage at 19. You were in that marriage for 10 years. You were single for a little bit. Then you jumped in another marriage. You were married for another 5 years. So
Right.
yeah, and I do. And you're not even the first person I've met other females who they're not like that. They don't say that they need to be in a marriage. They do not know how to date. They can't date people. They have to be in a relationship.
Yeah,
Like that's all they know. They don't know how to not be in a
because that's what
relationship.
I've
So
seen.
I've heard that before.
That's what I've seen. I've seen how to communicate. I don't believe in um down. I believe I have to be my husband's peace, right? Your man's peace. He come home, he find peace with you because he fight everybody else out there in the world. So you
Hmm.
have to have that ear to listen. God gave him a partner so that that's what we're here for, to bounce stuff off. But he also let you know behind every great man is a great woman. You know what I'm saying? Because after God is your husband, and then you, and then your kids, and everybody else come after. I do believe in that because that's what I've seen. I grew in that. I went to live with my aunt at the age of 11. Yes, they had, husband and wife argument, but you will never hear my uncle. Never hear my uncle. You'll hear my aunt, but you would
Hmm.
never hear him. And I think that's in all my aunts, looking at my aunts who married, and they have been married for years and years and years. I've seen that. So I've always longed for that. And the conversations I will have with him, even going to visit Trinidad and being at his mother's house, she would always say, even though you get mad at him, or he may say she vex, she would never hear me, because if he did something to offend me, I would say, you see that thing you did there? And I would tell him, I say, you need to fix that because I don't like that. But I
Hmm.
will never beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it. It takes 21 days to build a habit. He already know I don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So it's never, I don't know, he just didn't know how to. Now he talks a lot more and is more vocal with me. And I told him that the other day, talking to him on the phone. I said, I've never heard you talk this much or even be this open.
And what's his response?
With with age brings wisdom.
That's what he said.
With age brings wisdom. He was ready for a wife, but he didn't know what to do with a wife. You
So
you
what
know
is he ready for now? Have you had that conversation?
I don't really know how to have that conversation, because even when he said I put him in the daycare and I leave him for months and months and don't call, right?
Who puts the people in that daycare? That's like a horrible mom. That is horrible.
You're right. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, because I called him for his birthday this month and he didn't answer. And then he called me and I was asleep because I go to bed early, Lisa. This is past my bedtime.
Hmm.
And I didn't answer. And then I called and he didn't answer. And, we just been playing phone tag. And then when he finally got me, he said, "Wait, boy, you just leave me in the daycare and then come back for me." And I don't even
Poor
know.
job.
I
Poor
don't even
job. He
know.
just in a daycare waiting for somebody to come pick him up.
He said, and I can't even get the people your address to them because I don't know where it is. And I said, well, I said, I don't understand what that means, you know. And he said, because I trying to get in contact with you. And I said, wait, I leave this marriage to come back to it again. The same thing. I said, well, I don't know you feel that way. You know what I mean? A conversation here and there doesn't mean you want me back. That doesn't do anything for me. That doesn't say anything for me. It's just a conversation. We just two grown people that used to be married having a conversation. It's not even intimate conversations. It's just conversation about life.
Right.
What you doing? How's it going? It's hard here because he's just starting here. So it's a whole culture
So
shock.
it's more of like small talks rather than
Correct.
it's small talks. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
small talk. So
Okay.
I don't know you feel that way where you have the need for me to always call you and check on you to see how you're doing. I'm not in that headspace. You see what I'm saying? I'm not there. I'm in a
Hmm.
comfort zone where I like being by myself at times. I like having that, not having to answer my phone or tell somebody, "Hey, I'm here," or "Hey, I'm there." I go when I want, I come when I want. And where do I go, Lisa? The backyard?
Nowhere.
To work? Nowhere. It goes nowhere. I sleep more than anything else. So, I didn't it kind of made me think, you know, what exactly is he looking for, but how do you start that conversation?
Sir, what you want? What you looking for?
See, that's the aggressive stuff I'm talking about. The aggressive woman. You see, I will work things out in my head where you just say it. I always tell her that. I think it, you say it. You know, girl.
That's how I'll be. I'll not just come out and ask, cause
Yeah, you don't have time. I have to play the scenario, and because of the past relationship,
right.
I think I tiptoe around things, try to pick him to see where he's at. I'm not just gonna come out and say, okay, well, what you want? You know, what is this? That's not me. You see what I'm saying? Because, like you say, if you don't sit me down and say, this is what I want, this is where we at, I'm doing me.
Right.
Life goes on because I'm not thinking about you like that. I'm not giving you the opportunity to put me back into a space that I have grown from.
Understandable. But it still sounds like, um, going back to the original comment. So you're not really saying that you won't date. Like you're not as much of against a Caribbean guy.
No,
So you see, y'all Caribbean men have been listening. Y'all stop calling me and telling me nonsense, okay? She don't. She did not mean that all of y'all are bad.
no, not at all.
Okay.
I love
So,
my
and
Trinidad men. I do. I love them.
when
But
I don't tell you that, you don't be like, Lisa, you crazy. I tell you, I love them too.
you love them just a little bit more than me.
I love them too. You don't be
Because
like, Lisa, you crazy.
Lisa, because any little thing, we have our conversation. We talk for hours about the stuff. We
Right.
just talk about everything. We go into depth. But I would say any little thing that he say to me that's on, I will pick it apart. I work everything out in my head. And if
And you
I
only
think
do that with him, and is that because of where he's from? Or you just do it in general?
in general, in
Okay.
Everything. I play everything. I'm an overthinker. I overthink everything. If any little thing, I will pick that one sentence apart. So you have to be very, very, very transparent with me. If you're
I
not,
mean, I feel you on that because I think I overthink too. I would say an example, but I'm not gonna say it only because I know he listens to this episode, and if I
correct.
say he don't know I'm talking about him. But
Right.
there is things that he says that I'm in my head saying, but I don't want to be like I pick it apart. I just put it in a corner and I watch, and then
You
I'm
look
just
for it.
like, okay.
You look for it. You
Hmm.
know? I think as women, we put things into the atmosphere and we're not aware that in our subconscious we're looking for that. We're looking for those errors.
You talking about
I
me?
I talking about me too. Because if you do that
First of
one,
all, you're supposed to say no. You're not talking about me.
then I'll be lying as your friend. I'm not lying. I am your friend and I'm saying what I'm saying.
But sometimes, like I said on the previous episode, I be right. I be right.
Correct. You do. You remember that friend of mine who I said, I wish he would just go away. I wish he would just go away.
Which one? Don't call the names. Do not call the name. But which one?
The one you say, Monique, I don't like him.
Oh, yeah. I can stun him. Oh. I've never met him, never seen him. Just hearing him, I was like, yo, what are you doing with that? I could not stand him.
Yeah. That was one
Oh,
of my, I don't know. That was something. I was going through something with that. I really was.
I could see that.
I was
Because I was really taken back. I was like, this is not the person I know. Like,
yeah,
I mean, I never told you that in the time because you needed to realize, that wasn't a relationship you needed to be in at all.
correct.
But I never even told you I didn't like him until you were broke up with him.
Yeah.
I never told you how much I couldn't stand him. I didn't think he was deserving of you. He was not even like the bottom of the barrel. That fool was not even the bottom of the barrel. He wasn't even in the barrel.
No.
I
It,
don't know
it,
where he
it
was, but he was lower than the slums.
I think it was something to do when you need something to do. And
Yeah, but
that something
you
to
should have picked up
do.
crochet because that was not
Maybe
it.
crochet and even the wood. I should have picked up knitting.
You're right, cause that he was not it. So yeah, I never told you anything while you were in the situation, but it always dawned on me like, why is she there?
Yeah.
And
Because
he
it
was
was
an American guy, so then I was just like, maybe she should go back to a Caribbean guy, cause I really do not feel like the Caribbean men I have met, they're never. Let me just say those Caribbean men I have encountered or that I know personally, I don't feel like I've never heard or see them disrespect women on that type of level.
gotcha. Gotcha. I have never, well, Lisa, I don't go anywhere. Remember, I do nothing. You know, Caribbean men, I know my brothers, my uncles, cousins. I don't have Caribbean friends like that. You are the only Caribbean friend I have.
Really?
Yeah, my other girlfriends are Americans. My people I went to school with, we don't really talk to say we friends. Because you all grow people. My
Do
sister,
not call name about the group. Do not call the name of the group that you outgrew because I know the group you're talking about. Do not call their names because
I'm not.
I know people that listen to them know them. Please don't call their names.
I'm not.
Okay,
I'm
because you've
not
been
talking
dropping
about
names like left and right.
no. We're
Because
not
nobody
even
gonna come to me and say,
we're not
"Oh, you
going there.
had."
Why are you saying that? We're not even going there. I am talking about my
Okay, I
sisters.
just want to
My
say it before
sisters,
I notice you drop on them. I'll be like, "What?"
you
Caught me off
you
guard.
might say anything. It's say
Okay,
anything. But no,
okay,
I'm
go
not going
ahead.
there. I'm not going there.
Okay, go ahead, go
Um,
ahead.
but it's more family. My circle of Caribbean friends and is really family. It's not friends. When I go Trinidad, I go sleep. I find a house and go sleep. I
Wait, you
don't
go
do
to
anything.
Trinidad to go sleep the same thing you do in the US?
Maybe same thing I do. Yes, I'm a creature of habit. I'm a crab. I don't do anything. I go visit family and I sleep. I don't do anything. I really don't. I do nothing. You're lucky if I get to go to the beach. And
Oh.
I'm not a drinker, you know that. I drink
I
a
saw you with a wine glass. I was like, what you getting there? Juice?
juice girl, you're easy.
I was going to ask because I'm not drinking tonight. I just drinking water.
Lisa,
Usually,
this baby, this is grapefruit juice.
I'm just doing water since
Ruby
I'm
red.
back on my gym flow, eating right flow, and plus I'm probably gonna do a ton of drinking this weekend. Let's be for real.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a big weekend ahead of you.
I got a big weekend ahead, yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna, yeah. So I'm right there.
But yeah, I don't, even though I like to dance, you live far and I live far. So
Yeah.
even if you going out and you invite me to go, you know me, Lisa. I tell all that don't invite me to go nowhere because I always say yes and then I say, yeah, I go take a rain check.
I mean, we saw that when we went to Houston on the leaders retreat.
Lisa,
I was
stop
just
in your
like,
business.
what? What? I was just like, I'm
Lisa,
just back to the
you
hotel.
forget my business.
All
All
I
you
said
do,
was, I just was like, I'm just drop you back to the hotel. I went about my business.
you know, and then come to knock and wake me up.
Let's see what's what happened when you're drunk and you come back. Was that our last night? That wasn't even our last night. I don't think that was our
No,
last night
that
in
was
Houston.
not last night.
No.
But it was good drunk. But I don't do them thing. I don't know. I just it's a lot going on, and you know the backstory of
Right,
a
right.
lot that's going on, with me, concerning certain things.
Hmm.
So, I'll get back to where I want to go out and I want to, do certain things. But right
And I
now,
think once you start doing that, then maybe you'll come back to the Caribbean side.
yeah, I will.
You
I'm excited though. I'm
see.
getting
I think
really
that's what you're
excited.
missing. Look how you just light up when I said that. I think you really want a Caribbean man.
I do because like I tell you, when I'm with the Americans, I'll be like, dang, you can't think. Shoots. You
See,
know?
so now you can never tell me again. Oh, Lisa, I don't want Caribbean man. I like my American dude. Cause that's what you've always told me. That's why when I said the comment and then you called me after you watched the episode and we talked about, it, I was like, stop talking. We gonna put this out. And other people have called me and
Mhm.
they had asked me. They were like, so she don't think um I mean they got on me for the comment I made about Nigerians as well too.
Mm.
Well one did. Um they were like, so she just thinks that all Caribbean men have multiple women and all these children, and I said, well, I don't think it's everybody, but I think you have to kind of look at too, like when you said about, what you say your dad do and your stepdad and whatnot. I mean, my dad has multiple children, right? With multiple women. And I think when you look back and see how it was during their time and how they were, well, then lucky child support didn't exist.
Yeah.
If child support had existed
Just
during those
yeah.
times, they would have been screwed. They wouldn't have had a pot to piss in and a window to throw it out of.
That
Because
exactly.
some of them have a lot of children.
And not only that, Lisa, what I resented was that my mom and my stepmom stayed.
I
I
don't think it's like you have to resent that. I think, like I said, their times were different. That was all they knew. At that time, it wasn't as easy as it is now to just up and walk away, right?
right.
Because divorce wasn't a thing. Leaving your marriage wasn't a thing. Leaving your husband was this. It just
But not a
wasn't a
thing.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think women. um, back in those days didn't have a voice. And I think as time went on and years have passed, I feel that women had then started to gain their voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now it's more of, since women now, we work, we have careers. Back then, in your mom's day and age, and my mom's day and age, that wasn't a thing for them to be a career woman, and it wasn't a thing for them to work. It was a thing for them. They took pride in
Cleaning the
like
house,
keeping their house together, cooking for
sure.
their
Yeah.
husband, taking care of their children. That was their pride and joy. So I think, like I said, it's like it shouldn't be a resentment towards them because that was all they knew. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think that
and
sometimes you
I
have to give
understand.
people a little bit of grace because they
Correct.
did the best they could with what they knew.
I know that. It's not that I don't know these things. Like I say, I have grown a lot from that, where, I can have the conversation and I could understand, and I could say that was never gonna be me. I prefer to leave than to stay and accept certain things. I did. At this point in my life, like I said, I'm hitting knocking on 50. I'm on the outskirts knocking on 50. So I'm just like, maybe I need to rethink certain things, as far as what I look for. When I talk to my father and I ask God what it is in a husband that I want. I don't want to have to guess. It must come naturally. It must, be mutual respect, where I don't feel like I have to disrespect you to say I'm a woman, and you don't have to disrespect me to prove that you're a man, because we see it, right?
Right?
Um, so like I say, it's just me. Aggressiveness takes me back because I'm not the aggressive type. So anytime you get that aggressive, my walls go up as too much, But I like men.
Yeah, thanks for giving that disclaimer. Good comment that you're gonna give. All right. So closing thoughts. What are your final thoughts on the topic? I know we kind of strayed off of it a little bit, but closing thoughts on the topic. Caribbean men, American men.
Opposites do attract.
Okay, that's it. Okay.
I'm flexible. I don't mind dating men from my country. I really don't mind. It's just the mental has to change. If you show me something, I will believe it. I don't come in. I'm very open minded. I'm not closed minded. I'm very open minded. So
All right, and I don't have any closing thoughts because it really was not my opinion. This was something that you said that you wanted to come clear the air. Everybody thinks they kind of know how I feel. I still feel the same way, like what I said on the previous episode. Um, I gravitate more towards Caribbean men only because I am very Caribbean. I hold my culture and everything very close to me. I'm not saying that I'm not open to an American guy. It just depends on the situation, the vibes, all of that. So yeah, if you guys like what you hear on this podcast, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. New episode does come out every Saturday. I do have something special that is coming up. I'm trying to kind of see how I'm going to put out this topic that I want to bring forward. It is a special guest that I will be having. The topic is kind of controversial. Not kind of. It's very controversial. I know it might upset some people, but we're going to go ahead and talk about it. Because, like I said, I didn't want to put this podcast in a box. So, if you like what you hear tonight, like I said, go ahead and comment and let us know your thoughts. Caribbean men, we're not coming at you.
not
African
enough.
guys, we're not coming at you.
Not
American guys, we're not coming at you. This is just our opinions. and our thoughts on how we feel, that is it. You are free to hit me up on the site and let me know your thoughts, your comments. You can even comment below. If you're brave enough, go ahead and comment and let everybody know what you're thinking. But this is the Cultivate Your Life